Hey sports fans, and welcome to the Business Fixer podcast, where we believe that clarity is king and simplicity is queen. I am your host, Haroon Rashid. Today, episode 9, how I turned around a department that was losing £20,000 a month. That's right, kids, it's story time with Haroon, so grab your hot cocoa and let's gather around the fire. The Business Fixer podcast is sponsored by Dad Mode. That is hilarious dad gifts or gifts for him. Funny dad t-shirts, hilarious dad mugs, all branded up with some great dad jokes. Look, guys, he's got enough deodorant and socks. Give him something different. Give him a gift that's going to make him smile. So that's dadmode.co.uk. And it's UK only, by the way. I have had some inquiries outside of the UK, but unfortunately we are just UK only. But that is dadmode.co.uk. So today I wanted to tell you guys the story of how I turned around a department that was losing £20,000 a month. That's a significant amount of money if you think about it. You know, it's around £250,000 a year loss, which by any standard is not a good place to be. I, of course, have changed the names and the industry just to make sure that we uphold confidentiality because, you know, that's how we roll on this podcast. We're good guys. So, a few years back, I was called into a professional services company. I met with the CEO and he said that we have a department. The rest of the business is strong. We have this one department that's just not working. We've done everything we can. We've thought of everything we can think to do. We think that we need marketing for it. So we want you to come in and we need to get this thing up and running quickly, get it fixed quickly because time is money and we've lost a hell of a lot of money already. So as you can imagine, I went through my normal process. I went and just started listening, talking to people, listening to what's going on. So I talked to, you know, kind of like the ground level staff, and I talked to the various stakeholders, the heads of department and some of the other staff, and try to find out what was going on. And all I was doing at this stage was I was just trying to figure out what are the key storylines that are coming through. And guess what? Everybody had an opinion about what was going on. Everybody had opinions as to, well, our Google reviews are really bad. So when our customers come, they look at the reviews and it kills our conversion. And that, you know, it's quite a viable opinion. Other people said, well, our marketing's shit. They didn't tell me why it was shit. They just said it was shit. And that's a very subjective thing. Other people said that, oh, the staff are shit. And there was a lot of shit being thrown around here. So all I had to do really was to kind of say, okay, noted. I'm going to just kind of do some experiments now and see what's going on. And we started throwing some marketing at it, did some Facebook ads, and it was the same results again and again and again. So when we were doing the marketing, I was looking at things with a very narrow focus. I was only concerned about the marketing efforts. After a few months, things still weren't working. It wasn't getting any better. So I had to change my approach. I now had to widen the focus. And I had to look at everything from an end-to-end process. So by that I mean I started to scrutinize every single person and every single touch point along that process, from when something goes out from us in terms of marketing to when an inquiry comes in, who's dealing with the inquiry, how quickly was it dealt with, etc., 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 who's talking to the customers, how are we following up, how are we getting the cash in, and so on. It was only, unfortunately, after I looked at this that we found out that the department who was actually in trouble, their staff weren't doing anything with the leads. Wow. You can imagine. We were trying to run around and save that department, but they had already kind of checked out emotionally. They'd already kind of lined up other jobs and other businesses of their own. And they said, yeah, you know what? We're not doing anything with the leads. So we ended up having to get rid of about 4, maybe 5 people from that department, completely gut it, and then start again. So we hired, rather than having 5 people, we had 1.5 people. So that's 1 full-time member, 1 part-time person. We then completely redid the marketing with clear, simple messaging. And we got some really good graphics together, and we just kept it simple. And using that kind of big three priority structure that's used in Michael Hyatt, I looked at everything and said, okay, we could do 20 things, but we can't do 20 things. So which few things can we do really well, and which of those things are going to have the highest impact on the business? So we used the resource in finance to try and do some financial modeling. We said, okay, well, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. And we did particular products or services that we had which financially made sense, and we just focused on 3 campaigns. Well, I was pleased to say that after about four or 5 months, the ship started to turn, and we ended up making a profit after about month 9. That is really the key top line of how I turned around the department. But within that as well, you've got to consider other things such as leadership. Who was the one person who was owning the whole process? There wasn't anybody. And we had to redo the whole end-to-end process to make sure that there was a responsible person, someone who was owning that process end to end. We had to make sure that we redid the marketing and the language and the key messages and all that good stuff. And that was completely revamped. We had to bring in new people, and we had to get their buy-in. We had to, I had to lead, and I had to get those people on board. And guess what? It wasn't easy. There was a lot of arguments. Yeah, I think one of the directors even likened it to Beirut at one point, which wasn't a great thing. But you know what? Conflict happens, but it's not about being liked. It's about being respected and getting the job done. Then it was about, the financials about the whole thing. How was it viable? So doing financial scenarios with, a really great guy who's now a really good friend of mine. But making sure that the whole financial picture is viable, and making sure that the whole department is able to sustain itself, and looking at and not being afraid to have a look at other scenarios. So we went from a department of 5 people down to 1.5, and it worked. It didn't need to, make millions and millions and millions of pounds. It just needed to wash its face in the beginning, and then it became profitable. And after that, you can grow and you can scale, which is fine. But the principles were the same. You have to have that end-to-end process in place. You have to have good people, etc., etc., etc. By the way, everything I'm saying, doesn't it sound a little bit like the business triangle? By the way, if you go onto businessfixer.co.uk, you will be able to see that in the show notes. But for those of you who haven't heard the podcast before, if you go onto businessfixer.co.uk, you'll see a green triangle, and I've got on each point finance, operations, sales, and marketing. And in the middle is culture. Every single business and even department comes down to those 3 or 4 things. You have to have those things working right. So let's do a quick recap. Finance, we did a financial picture or a viability. Operations, the end-to-end process. We went through the whole thing and make sure it was sound. We redid the marketing and the sales process. And once we got those 3 things right, the department was turned around. And there you have it for today's episode. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you found it useful. Please do go and check us out now. We are now on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon. You could even talk to your Alexa and hear this podcast, which I think is really cool. My wife doesn't think it's that cool, but I just kind of geek out and do that all the time. But anyway, so if you want to go and check us out on businessfixer.co.uk, that'd be great. Please do like and subscribe, and go and support us that way and leave us a review. And do send in some questions if you'd like to info@businessfixer.co.uk, where I'd like to be doing a new segment where we can take some of your questions. But until then, take care, sports fans.